Hello, welcome to Cello Tuesdays. I'm Diane Chaplin, and this month's program is called Days of Awe. This is a reference to the 10 days on the Jewish calendar between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, during which time Jews are asked to take stock of how their year has gone and to examine how their behavior has been, to make amends, to ask for forgiveness directly to people or to God for things that they maybe have done that were not the best behavior through that year, and to also offer forgiveness to those who have wronged them. And it culminates at Yom Kippur, which begins, for me, in an hour. Jewish days begin at sunset. So in about an hour, it will be sunset, and Yom Kippur will begin here on the West Coast. So I'm doing this program specifically so that I will be done before the official day of Yom Kippur. And the beginning of the Yom Kippur observance consists of a set of vows that are said, which is called Kol Nidrei. And many of you will recognize those words Kol Nidrei, even if you don't know anything about Jewish synagogue services, because the composer Max Bruch in 1881 wrote a very famous cello piece, which goes like this. And it's called Kol Nidrei. He was not Jewish. He heard this melody and he thought it was very beautiful, and he wrote this piece, which is based on the melody that we hear in the synagogue, sort of, but all synagogues do it a little bit differently, and it is more of his version is more of a concert version of it. I'm going to play two versions of the Kol Nidrei this evening that are not the standard Max Bruch version. The first one was written by Lewandowski in 1865, so about 15 years before Bruch wrote his version. Lewandowski was German-Polish, depending on what time you looked at the map. I think he was German when it was during his lifetime, and it's Poland now. But he was a Jewish composer, as are all of the composers on tonight's program. Everyone is Jewish. And he was noted for writing a large volume of music for synagogue services. He worked at the Neue Synagoge in Berlin for many years, and he also transcribed many ancient Hebrew melodies. So this is a Kol Nidrei that was originally written for violin and piano, and this is my arrangement for cello. Kol Nidrei by Louis Lewandowski. Next is a piece that is a companion piece to something called A Meditation on Kol Nidrei, which was written by Ze'ev Falk. This piece is called A Prayer for Those Who Look Away. It was written in 2020 by Noam Faingold. Noam lives in Washington, D.C. He is a composer, conductor, teacher. And one of the interesting things about this piece is that the notations in the music, which are usually in Italian, things that say, slow down, get softer here, are written in Ladino. Ladino is the Spanish-Hebrew hybrid that was kind of developed, I believe, during the time of the Conversos, after the Spanish Inquisition, when all the Spanish Jews had to pretend to be Christian so that they didn't get killed, and they kind of went underground with their Judaism, and Ladino developed. And if that's not correct, someone will write that in the chat and correct me on that. But it's a language that's not spoken by very many people, and it's really cool to have Ladino in this part. So I'm gonna read the Meditation on Kol Nidrei by Ze'ev Falk, which is intended to be heard potentially during the Kol Nidrei service, and then I'll go right into A Prayer for Those Who Look Away by Noam Faingold. All the vows on our lips, the burdens in our hearts, the pent-up regrets about which we brooded and spoke through prayers without end on last Atonement Day did not change our way of life, did not bring deliverance in the year that has gone. From mountain peaks of fervor, we fell to common ways at the close of the fast. Will you hear our regret? Will you open our prison, release us from shackles of habit? Will you accept our prayers, forgive our wrongs, though we sin again and again? In moments of weakness, we do not remember promises of Atonement Day. Recall that we easily forget. Take only our heart's intent. Forgive us, pardon us. That was A Prayer for Those Who Look Away by Noam Faingold. I'm checking to see if anyone wrote Elsuits. Oh, Howard Patterson says Lidino is older than that, I believe. But we don't know. Maybe someone will write it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for these beautiful comments that I see. So one of the things that I think all the pieces today share, in addition to just a lot of emotional depth, is that they all kind of end in a sort of questioning manner. I find there's not strong endings on any of them. They sort of end with a question, which is very much what happens for Jews all the times of the year, but especially this time of the year. So the next piece is a work called Crépuscule du Kol Nidrei by Graciane Finzi. She is a French composer. She was born in Casablanca, and when she was aged 10, her family took her to live in Paris to study at the Paris Conservatoire. She is a composer and teacher in Paris. And so the word crépuscule du Kol Nidrei, we have that same word in English. The crepuscular time is the twilight before Kol Nidrei. And so for me, that's about 45 minutes. I am in right this moment. I am in the crépuscule du Kol Nidrei, the twilight before Kol Nidrei begins. So this is, again, referencing the Kol Nidrei theme that we know that was made famous by Max Bruch in its, maybe slightly varied form. This is a set of variations. There are 9 variations. You won't be able to tell when it goes from variation to variation. It's very unclear when a new variation starts, but you will hear the Kol Nidrei melody, and you'll also hear something that is a kind of a variant, which sounds sort of like blocks of sound, and that happens immediately after the initial Kol Nidrei melody is heard at the beginning, and you'll hear that also returning through the piece. This is Crépuscule du Kol Nidrei by Graciane Finzi. That was Crépuscule du Kol Nidrei by Graciane Finzi. The next piece is called Kaddish. It's by Dan Reiter. Kaddish is a few different things in a Jewish service, but kind of most known as the prayer for the dead, said when someone passes away. It is said at various times during the year when Jews remember their dearly departed. And it is definitely a feature of the Yom Kippur service, where we are thinking of our ancestors and those that we loved that are no longer with us. This particular Kaddish was first performed in 1993 on the day that the composer's father passed away. And I am holding in my heart someone, I apologize for being vague, this is not my news to announce. A member of the Portland musical community passed away yesterday. I'm not going to say the name because it hasn't been announced yet. For those of you in Portland, I'm sorry to be vague booking, but it is a shock to me, and I am playing this Kaddish in this person's memory tonight. I will read you what the composer wrote. Kaddish is a conversation between the player and God. Questioning passages go unanswered. Anger, pleading, and sadness also have no response. A feeling of resignation emerges. Perhaps the answers were always there, hidden in the emotions. The final cadence leaves a reminder that we live with the questions forever. This is Kaddish by Dan Reiter. That was Kaddish by Dan Reiter. And the final piece on the program, the ending, is also a beginning. This is a piece called Bereshit by Iris Azquinezer. She is a Spanish cellist and composer. And Bereshit is the Hebrew word for Genesis, the first book of the Bible, of the Torah. And at this time of year, in about 10 days, we turn the Torah, we come full circle with the Torah, and we begin again at the beginning. So this is just a reference to the cyclical nature of life. We are back in our cycle, about to begin as we end. And one thing that I think you'll notice, this is quite a raw piece. I think she really captures the birth of the earth, the heartbeat of life emerging out of the nothingness. This is Bereshit by Iris Azquinezer. It was Bereshit by Iris Azquinezer. Excuse me, a little dry. Gemar Chatima Tova, for those of you who are observing Yom Kippur, whether you see this program before or after Yom Kippur. And I'm just going to look at some of the comments in case there's anything. It's very nice. Thank you so much. So many friends and colleagues here. Thank you so much for listening. And I know some of the composers are listening as well. I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to continue to do these live streams because they feed my soul, and I'm so glad that other people are finding them interesting. The next one's November 1st, which, as you know, is All Saints Day, and it's also the day after Halloween, and that program will be called Saints and Spirits. And we'll have appropriate kind of music for those two holidays. So I hope to see you then. Thank you so much for listening.